Greetings, brothers and sisters. Okay, so must have been around dinner time. I don't know what time Aaron Burnett's on, but CNN was on YouTube TV, and she was talking about Tim Cook. And I went to search for it on YouTube. Hopefully they posted this. And then I found it. I had to find it, on YouTube TV and tape it with my phone because they didn't. I always wonder why they don't put certain clips on YouTube. This is kind of a bombshell story. Apple is producing their phones in India to get around the China tariffs. But I went back to the beginning of this story, and it starts off here with Walmart raising their prices. And so let's get into it here.
Good evening, I'm Aaron Burnett, and out front tonight, prices are going up. America's largest retailer, Walmart, warning today that it will have to hike prices because of Trump's tariffs. Here's the CEO of Walmart.
We will do our best to keep our prices as low as possible. But given the magnitude of the tariffs, even at the reduced levels announced this week, we aren't able to absorb all the pressure given the reality of narrow retail margins.
Of course they're not going to freaking absorb it. It's Walmart, right? You think they're going to... it's just silly. And, everyone knew this was going to come. Trump just... The big point about this all is going to be, and I've said this over and over again, no matter how this plays out, no matter how Trump escapes disaster, no matter how the economy escapes disaster, every Trumper should know by now. If you didn't know before, this guy's a complete bonehead. He's a moron. He's a flim-flam artist. He's a grifter. And he's very superficial in his understanding. He has a very remedial intellect. He's not a good businessman. And he just gets lucky and is able to con people. I would say, 50% luck, 50% his ability to con people. Luck really should be, in this context, be destiny. Trump has been chosen for a specific work that seems to be, by all reasonable assessments, to destroy the world, the economy and the system, to take down the beast. Not in a way that he's fighting evil, in a way that he's just such a bonehead. And, he's the epitome of what we deserve as a leader. Because we suck so bad, this is the kind of leader we get. Not that Joe Biden was better, but Trump could do more damage. But anyways, there's no him playing 5D chess. He doesn't know what tariffs do. He didn't know anything. He's just he's oblivious. And, tariffs are a tax. We all should know that. I didn't know that when, I didn't know much about tariffs at all when Trump first started talking about them. But now that they're here, we can understand what they do. And everybody who knows anything about them knows that they're a tax because they have to be, right? You're creating a price hike by charging countries, and some of these countries, some of the things coming from China, are American businesses that manufacture shit in China. And so you can manufacture those things in America, but you're not going to be able to keep the prices down. If you watch any Shark Tank show, the sharks are always encouraging the people to manufacture their shit out of America because it creates, lower prices, right? Then they can bring their manufacturing prices down significantly by manufacturing in China or one of these other countries. And so if you take that away, then the price of the item goes up. It's a fucking tax on you, right?
So who then will be absorbing some of these costs? Well, Main Street America. Everybody who shops at Walmart, and that is almost everyone. Walmart is the biggest retailer and the biggest private sector employer in the United States. Now, according to Capital One, they did all this research on Walmart. It's fascinating. They say 95% of Americans shop at Walmart. Regular Walmart shoppers visit an average of 67 times a year. And people who shop at Walmart spend 13.5% of their shopping dollars at Walmart. The average Walmart shopper, a woman with a household income between $40,000 and $80,000. So Walmart raising prices is not a small business. It is American business as Americans know it. And Walmart raising prices exposes the black and white reality that Trump's campaign promise was false.
We're going to be a tariff nation. It's not going to be a cost to you. It's going to be a cost to another country.
Okay, so first of all, remember you have to wear this, not wear, yeah, they put these glass barriers in front of them, even though the bullet came from the side. But, he wasn't, there was no assassination attempt. Everyone should kind of realize this now. It was a WWE style bogus event for dumbasses. And the media and everybody else was dragged along because they have done so many of these false flag type things themselves that they all had to go along with this Trump one. Because, if you call bullshit on one, you have to, question all of them. And the Secret Service was involved, and they would have to be completely compromised to be a part of this. But, Trump, not knowing this is a tax, it's basic fucking understanding of, reality and certainly economics, that if you create a fee, so what the government's saying is we're going to collect a 10% tariff or tax on this, stuff you're shipping in. And so now the price of this thing has just gone up. Like the countries aren't going to pay the tariff, aren't going to pay an extra fee and not raise the prices of what the goods that are coming in, right? And the country isn't paying it. Like it's the company coming in. No, China isn't paying the tariffs. It's Chinese companies and American companies that manufacture shit in China. And, when they bring their products, a business person, a merchant, ships their products to America, it's stopped at customs and they have to pay a tariff, which means that price of that product has just gone up by whatever percent of the tariffs. And they're of course going to pass it on to you because they're fucking shitty business people. You think they're going to just absorb a tariff? So China isn't paying 125%. It's silly. That means he knows nothing about tariffs. Or he thinks you're just complete dumbasses, just believe anything he says. Because it's a price hike on companies, not on a country.
Only it is costing you. And today's news from Walmart comes just days after Trump essentially declared victory in his unprecedented trade war with China. Victory, even though at this point there have been no details on any kind of a deal. One Wall Street firm writing that the agreement, such that it is so far, an understanding sort of, does not, quote, include any commitments by China on exchange rate policy or the bilateral trade imbalance, which is the core of the whole thing. And even after Trump backed off of the tariffs big time without any sort of a deal, what he left on China is still higher in terms of tariffs than those infamous Smoot-Hawley tariffs of the 1930s. Here's how Trump framed it.
We achieved a total reset with China. We made a great deal with China, great trade deal. They've agreed to open China, fully open China. Going to be great for everybody.
Trump is a politician. They all do this. He's also a grifter, which they all do this as well. But they're always going to just say, hey, whatever we did was great. Right? Whatever we did was great. And we got a great deal with China. He's going to say whatever they did is victorious. Because that's what Trump does. He just, it's Trump 101. And so it's kind of silly, but it's, the thing is that Trumpers don't realize it. Like, if he's lying about everything, then he's lying about everything. If no matter what he does, he's going to say it's great, well, that's not, a person of truth. That's not a truther. That's the opposite. Like, he's going to, rearrange reality to tell you how great whatever he did is. Because that's how he operates. That's what a grifter does. And politicians, and he's supercharged and worse than the rest of them.
Except Walmart shoppers. Except the 95% of Americans, right? The Walmart shoppers. And that may be part of why the CEO of JP Morgan Chase is not backing down from his predictions of a recession.
If there's a recession, I don't know how big it'll be or how long it'll last. Hopefully we'll avoid it, but I wouldn't take it off the table at this point.
You wouldn't take it off the table? What the fuck do you mean you wouldn't take it off the table? It's on the table? Like, what table is it on? That's what makes it sound like, we're negotiating something, recession or no recession. Jamie Dimon's like the devil. He's like the worst of the, his bank had the most derivatives and just, and he loved Trump. He's been a pro-Trump person since the beginning. But saying it's on the table, that means it's a part of a plan, right? I wouldn't take it off the table yet. We haven't, we haven't seen how everything's going to shake out. Let's not give up on the recession so early. Like, what the fuck you talking about?
And the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell again today warning that the U.S. could still be facing empty shelves because of the trade war, and soon.
We may be entering a period of more frequent and potentially more persistent supply shocks, a difficult challenge for the economy and for central banks.
And that uncertainty is dramatically changing how Americans spend money so far. According to new data, Americans significantly cut back on spending at U.S. retailers in April when Trump announced his sweeping tariffs. And tonight, the fallout from those tariffs has hit a nerve with Trump. The president taking aim tonight at Apple CEO Tim Cook while on the road in Qatar.
I had a little problem with Tim Cook yesterday. I said to him, Tim, you're my friend. I've treated you very good. You're coming in with $500 billion, but now I hear you're building all over India. I don't want you building in India.
See, Trump produced shit like Trump water and some other Trump things. You know, the Trump dolls, which were manufactured by Mattel, I believe, and they were manufactured in China. But in terms of Trump's being an entrepreneur and a businessman, he's kind of a real estate scammer and a slumlord. And, but he should understand manufacturing costs. There's labor costs and manufacturing costs. And both of those things go way down when you manufacture something in a poorer country with lesser currency, like India or China or any of these. You look at these cheap clothes you get at Walmart, and you flip over to the label. It says manufactured in China, manufactured in Taiwan, manufactured in India, manufactured in Pakistan, manufactured in Indonesia, right? And he knows this. So, once you manufacture things in America, there's going to be a price increase. And every dope should fucking know this, and certainly Trump should. And so, of course, this was going to fucking happen.
Well, Apple, of course, is building plants in India, and they are doing that because, well, it's the production of where Tim Cook is making the iPhone.
The majority of iPhones sold in the U.S. will have India as their country of origin.
That was his earnings call on May 1st. So it's not as if he's trying to hide what he's doing, right? I mean, they just said it there. Made in India to avoid Trump's trade war with China, which, of course, is not what Trump wanted to hear. He wants iPhones made in the United States. Just listen to Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary.
The army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones, that kind of thing is going to come to America.
Who the fuck is going to want to do that, right? And people don't want to put together something from IKEA. You think they're going to want to... Have you ever, when you have to get, little, reading glasses or magnifying glasses, you got those little tiny-ass fucking screws, and you got to solder, which is a whole thing, because it's toxic, right? There's this 60 Minutes report probably 10 or 15 years ago where these poor people in China were in junkyards melting phones down to get little bits of gold and shit that was in the phone, tiny amounts that were in precious metals, and they would die a year later from toxicity. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, because it was so toxic, the shit they were breathing in. Those iPhones are, there's toxic shit in there, and they're, all that stuff. Those people who make the things suffer dramatically. Americans are going to want to do that shit. It's making it sound like some great thing's going to happen for us, right? We get to fucking put together fucking phones.
You know what our Dan Ives has said? If that is how you want to make iPhones, then be prepared to pay several $1,000s for an iPhone.
She had a couple guys on from Wall Street, remember, that said that it was going to be $3,000 for an iPhone. They're now $1,200 something, $1,500, I don't know. So it's going to be more than doubled. And God knows, all of it. And so now he's making them in India. And, because Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, right? And that's the big takeaway here. Trumpers should realize that this guy, they've put so much of their hopium into him. I don't know, there's no Trumpers that listen to me anymore because, I shit all over Trump now regularly because he just sucks so bad and he's failing. And we didn't know what he was going to do because he would say things all the time and not follow through. He's a liar and a bullshitter. For some reason, he thought he believed his own bullshit. He thought this tariff thing was going to go in a direction that was going to be, positive, and it just clearly isn't. The thing about this thing is the reason that Apple is taking these, the companies to India, which is going to cost them some money, right? They have to invest now in India. to build buildings and find employees and build a structure of their components. And I don't know how much they were already in India. Like maybe some of it was already in India, but whatever. Why would they do that if China is the one paying the tax, the tariff tax? Like it's because they're not. Like Trump's just a fucking lying piece of shit. Either he doesn't know or he knows and he just doesn't, he just lying to you. Like when he's saying, oh, you're not going to affect you. No, it's going to affect the companies. We're going to pass the tax on to you. And the reason he's doing it, Tim Cook, is because a lot less people will buy an iPhone for $3,000 or whatever it costs, right? And it's not going to just be iPhones, it's going to be everything. So there's going to be significant price increase on all the shit that you're buying, which is going to cost you so much more money across the board. So you can't just say, all right, I'll pay a little bit more for an iPhone this one time. So people just won't be able to buy it because it'll be, so many other things will be more expensive. And so, this should be the nail in Trump's coffin. Whether he survives this thing, which he will, it's like it seems like it's, claim he won and did this thing with China, whatever. But, let's say that he was effective, which he won't be. You still have to understand that the outcome could have been you pay much higher prices and you elected him, like if you voted for Trump, to reverse the inflationary problems that Biden caused. Trump caused with this COVID bullshit, and the economy itself caused it by just being a debt-based economy, and inflation is inevitable. So this should be like, all right, this guy has no credibility, like for Trumpers. But the Trumpers just are so desperate in their hopium, so whatever. Let's move on. So RFK Jr. gave some inspiring talks that I haven't heard, but I know they exist. In this Senate hearing, they got into it with various people, and I have something else to talk about that ties into what I was talking about in my last video and then earlier on in the introduction of this video, about how people can't remove themselves from their groups, right, from the indoctrination of their groups, even in the face of facts or whatever, the face of reality.
The ranking member, Mr. Lauro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me just one area of correction, which has to do with the measles issue, Mr. Secretary.
Okay, so this woman, I believe, is from either New York or Connecticut. And I think Connecticut, but I'm not sure. Who gives a shit? I just covered her recently. Now, why would you trust somebody who paints her hair this color? And she looks like she's probably well in her 70s. I mean, she's in her 70s, maybe her 80s. And so why would you take this person seriously? Now, if you're a kid, you want to get tattoos, you want to, you paint your, when you're young, when you're a kid, you dye your hair a certain color or whatever. It's a phase. Get in your 20s, when you start dyeing your hair unnatural colors. I mean, if you're dyeing your hair something that looks like a natural hair color, it's one thing, But if you're doing it where and I'm sure she's dyeing her hair black and whatever the fuck that color is, purple or light blue or whatever it is, violet. And so, you're not a credible person. You're 70 years old. Why are you trying to manipulate your, an unnatural, you're just trying to put it together. I mean, you're old as shit. You're decrepit. Your skin, all this stuff. You're just old. People know you get old. It's old. Whatever. I mean, this. What is this like as a choice, as a life choice?
You keep comparing the U.S. to other countries. You compare us to Europe, but the Europe you are referring to is the WHO European region. That's 53 countries in Europe and in Asia, including those with low vaccination rates like Romania, that has never eliminated measles. If you compare us to Western Europe countries that we often compare ourselves to, like Great Britain, they have seen no measles death this year. Let me move to the NIH. In your
Boom.
testimony, you say you want to quote, and I quote, rescale our biomedical research budget, unquote. Excuse me, but that's BS.
It's BS. It's fucking BS.
Not rescaling NIH research. You are proposing to cut it by $20 billion. And according to our colleagues in the...
NIH was at least partially responsible for COVID, right? Maybe entirely responsible, but at least, shares, and then the handling of it. And so, these things happen. Like when there's an economic collapse, they went to that guy Jamie Dimon, that piece of shit I showed you earlier, and other people like him to fix the problem that they caused by irresponsible, debt-based, usury-based banking practices, where they got rid of the fractional reserve, and they were just printing money, loaning out money, and the credit default swaps, and then doing the shit with the derivatives. And then they were supposed to fix the problem they created, because that's how fucking we do shit, right? And after all these horrible things that the medical community has done, has been involved in, not just medical deaths and all the side effects of pharmaceuticals, but the opioid crisis and autism, some of these other things that they haven't been able to figure out and have caused, or whatever it is, right? And so, make it sound like mainstream medical system has a stellar record. That the NIH did a great job. Like, everyone kind of knows that COVID was bullshit. Like, there was lots of things that they did that was wrong, right? She makes it sound like they were like impeccable.
Senate. NIH has effectively cut research funding by $2.7 billion this year.
You mean like gain of function research? Like,
in comparison to the same period last year. That's a cut of 35% during that period. That includes cutting cancer research by 31%.
Okay, we know how to cure cancer by getting rid of carcinogens. People want to eat shitty foods that cause cancer, and you keep on making them. So why don't you talk about that? Like, why don't we get rid of carcinogens? Like, Kennedy was trying to talk about that. I don't know if it's sincere or not, changing the dietary, protocols for kids and everybody else, and then calling shit that's poisonous and not food, right? All the chemicals, forever chemicals that are in these foods that, the Casey Means was saying that, again, I don't know if this is true or not, but that these chemicals, they only ban them and study them after they cause a problem. So you can add chemicals to food, and as long as there's no issues, and of course, there's going to be so many other things causing problems, they can never pinpoint what chemical caused what problem, right? And so they don't even study these things before introducing this artificial shit to foods, right? And, there's long-term effects for these things. I mean, the whole thing is fucked. The system's fucked, right? It's a for-profit, you being sick and you being a good patient and you being chronically addicted to the mainstream medicine after eating the bullshit foods. And, like the whole thing. But there's something more I want to say about it. Let's get to that.
This is the report put out by the Senate, Trump's War on Science, which goes into detail about how we are, in fact, dealing with cutting scientific research. Mr. Secretary, are you freezing?
Look at the fucking rings, too. What is that? Are you Thanos? Is that what's happening? Are you secretly Thanos?
Or withholding funding that Congress appropriated in 2025 for life-saving NIH research?
Let me address your first issue first, because I want to correct you. We have about 1,100 measles cases in this country. The growth rate last year was 15 additional, so we have plateaued. Mexico has roughly the same number with a third of our population, and they got 300 extra cases last week. Canada has more measles, 1,500. They have 1/8 of our population. Western Europe has about 6,000, which is 10 times the number that we have.
Well,
you are wrong about what you said earlier.
We can discuss that, but I think one has to consider whether or not we're dealing with decades of data proving how effective and safe the measles.
Okay, so that's that, right? So that was some of what went on here. Okay, so this is from maybe a day ago. Now, Aaron Burnett did a report that I showed you about Trump's tariffs, which is quality news, because Trump has fucked up this thing and he's allowed CNN to make quality news again, and MSNBC. But I assume this is going to be the opposite spectrum, because, they're all being funded by Pfizer. Like, that's the problem. They all are, the politicians and these social media and the news media are all being funded by Pfizer advertising dollars.
and telling Congress and Americans, and I quote him, he said, "I don't think people should be taking medical advice from me." Today's hearings coming just a few days after Kennedy also faced widespread criticism for going swimming with his grandchildren in a Washington, D.C. creek where swimming is not allowed due to high levels of fecal bacteria. Tom Foreman is out front.
I don't know why you would go in a creek in Washington, D.C. They have some nice parks out there, but.
The budget I'm presenting today supports these goals and reflects.
Okay, look at him. He's, I think there's a guy, Tim Dillon, I'm not sure who, but he was doing an interview with RFK Jr. and the power went out. And he got really paranoid. He's with his wife, and he got almost like a childlike. He said, they're trying to kill me, and he like flipped the fuck out. Trump did a similar thing. And here.
Goals and reflects.
The Secretary of Health and Human Services jumped as a protest erupted behind him, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
How do they let those fucking people in? This is a closed Senate hearing, right? There's some media people, but how do they let somebody in to do that? Like that had to be almost like purposeful. This isn't a rally. There's senators and like it's a fucking, this is a hearing or whatever they do. That's a official capacity. There's some audience people here, but.
Squirmed a lot more amid sharp questions from lawmakers up front.
Are you planning to break the law by impounding congressionally appropriated funds?
Is health care a human right?
Way up in the clashes, drastic cuts to health care spending. The secretary pushed back on claims they will have serious real-world consequences.
It's just not true. We weren't.
They'll find a way to make them have consequences. I think what this is going to be is they let Kennedy do some of these things in case he means, and then they blame the next pandemic or something on them. They're going to blame a lot of things on truthers, and then there's just going to be, all the right-wing people, all the QBs, all the alternative media, all the people, Trump and his administration, all these other people. They're going to let them, do things that are either they can bullshit their way into saying that they caused damage, or they can truthfully say, stuff like the stupid tariffs did cause damage. And then they'll say, look at what social media has done for us. And then they'll get into a whole level of, not just in terms of, banning our ability to communicate on social media, but then all the other things that go with it, right?
Cutting thousands of scientists.
All right,
we weren't cutting clinical trial.
When challenged about proposed reductions in Medicaid, which serves many low-income and disabled Americans, he recited the administration mantra. It's all about waste, fraud, and abuse.
There are 1 million people who are claiming Medicaid from multiple states. That's illegal. It's theft. These are the only cuts that are being made to Medicaid.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
He even leveled charges at his own National Institutes of Health.
We should have the cure for Alzheimer's today. We don't have it purely because of corruption at NIH.
However, the secretary struggled when confronted over rising measles cases in the U.S., topping 1,000 this year.
Oh, 1,000 measles cases. Holy shit. We got to close the fucking society down, country down.
And his continued reluctance to fully embrace life-saving vaccines.
Life-saving vaccines.
Are you recommending the measles vaccine or not?
What I've said and what I said...
It doesn't sound like you are, if that's...
Are you going to let me answer? I am not going to just tell people everything is safe and effective if I know that there's issues.
And the head of the department responsible for improving the health of Americans added this stunning statement.
I don't think people should be taking medical advice from me.
Kennedy, who went swimming with his grandkids in a contaminated D.C. creek.
Okay, so I don't know where this is. It doesn't look like it's that bad. There's not toxic waste in here. I mean, and I guess he posted these pictures himself.
This past weekend also took heat over his calls to remove fluoride from public drinking water, although it is known to prevent tooth decay.
We better put a lot more money into dental education because we're going to need a whole lot more dentists.
At times,
holy shit. So they're going that route. This neurotoxin, right?
It was all too much for Kennedy and the lawmakers, too.
My time has expired.
Oh,
Oh, well, then so has your legitimacy.
Boom. Kaboom.
All right. I mean, just to give a sense of how contentious it was, Tom, there are a lot of lawmakers.
Look at fucking this dude. How does this guy have anything to say? This human fucking muppet.
And Republican who have been saying that cutting thousands of jobs at HHS will endanger the health of Americans and that will cost American lives. Did Kennedy answer those concerns, which are bipartisan?
He tried to, but he answered them badly by basically.
He just did a fucking bad job, man. It's bad. Let's run a Pfizer ad. Let's put a Pfizer ad in here. So what I want to talk about here, my wife was telling me she saw 2 Reddit threads. I don't really know how Reddit works, but we talk about this occasionally. She reads something. And she couldn't believe that these people were like on there freaked out about fluoride. They were freaked out that there's going to be no fluoride in their water. And they were like saying things like, well, there's bottled water with fluoride. I bet it's owned by Kennedy. I bet he's going to make $1 billion. People buying fluoridated water. Like, it's just, how I wanted to say something I can't say, the R word. How stupid people are. But it's also they're locked into their bullshit because liberals were responsible for alternative health care. And so there was a time in my life where the liberal people, and I didn't know very many conservatives, but the people that I knew that were liberal, or the liberalism as a whole, were the people talking about fluoride being an issue, like being a problem. And they were the ones responsible for herbal medication and pushing back against alternative medicine. I went to a very liberal college that one of the recommended, College of Human Services in Springfield, which was born out of the hippie movement. And they had this witches, midwives, and nurses, how women were excluded from being healers. Women are just more naturally inclined towards being healers than men are, right? And the allopathic medicine is very masculine and very money-oriented and against natural healing. And, the herbal medicine, these things that came in through the liberal movement. And now they're the ones pushing back against all these things. Kennedy was asked to look into these things by liberal moms whose kids were suffering from autism, and that's how he started doing some of these other things. He was mostly an environmental lawyer. And so, the thing about what I was saying yesterday about, being in a binary system, and, my wife was talking to somebody about how the person agreed that pharmaceutical medicines have harmful side effects, but still is going to use them because people, know they're taking poison. They know things are bad for them. And they'd much rather take the poison than admit the other side was right. And so now Kennedy is clearly, the right side, even though there's some liberal people backing him who are being excluded, lots of liberals, but they're now extremists. And these people are, looking for any way to they're panicked that there's no fluoride in their water, right? I've been on well water for good portions of my life. And we're doing things when I was on city water to get rid of fluoride. I've known about fluoride for over 30 years, or whatever it is, right? 25, 30 years. And was mostly on well water. And, my teeth are in relatively good shape, given that I had a shitty dentist that put metal in my mouth for cavities I didn't have, and, other things. And there's stuff like nanohypoxicrate, which I'm not recommending, but I use, that is like almost 99% teeth, like your teeth look to, it's a way of remineralizing a person's teeth. I mean, you can look into it, make your decision for yourself. But, this thing where you put fluoride or anything in the water, people drink from a large, like people have huge amounts of discrepancy or differences between what I drink in terms of water every day and what you drink. And so how would putting fluoride or anything in the water as a medical, like they want to put lithium in the water to help calm people down. Like there's shit like that they've thought about. But some people might drink 2 gallons of tap water a day and cook at home. There's other people that don't drink no water. And then there's the amount of time you spend absorbing water in the bathtub and things like this. So putting fluoride in the water is not a solution. If you really want to use fluoride, you could find other ways, right? I mean, it would be so, like, almost non-existent. I mean, it's also a neurotoxin, which I've shown before. I had a whole video clip, right? I have that meme I'll roll at the end of this this audio here. But, you know, the whole thing is it's just an absolute joke, right? That they would, you know, like they would think that they're missing out on something now. Because it's Kennedy's a Republican, he's a Trump person, so it must be trying to kill you. And the same way that Trumpers would believe Trump has the ability to be a you know, a smart businessman and he's playing chess when he's a dumbass. He does stupid shit. And you should know by now, like, holy Christ, you know, the guy's fucking, he's so bad. Like, it's just, and it's just that people are locked into these, you know, these groups of identification that the government and the system gives you. They've turned you into liberals and conservatives and Democrats and Republicans. And so, like, people don't have the ability, because they hate the other side so much that if the other side's for something, you have to be against it, which is, like, so stupid, right? Like, everyone's saying they're doing their own research, but when your research is to find out what the other side thinks about something, and you just take the opposite opinion, that's not research. And both the right-wing and the left-wing people do that, right? It's just really silly. Then my wife said there was another thread she saw on Reddit where a woman said that one of her close friends isn't vaccinating her kids and that the woman cut her off. I mean, that she cut the woman off and wouldn't allow her kids to be around, her vaccinated kids to be around the vaccinated kids, the unvaccinated kids of her friend. And then her friend apparently posted something on social media and it was blowing up, and this woman was like kind of asking Reddit what to do. You know, that's all fucking stupid shit they do. And she got a lot of support. Just like the fluoride thing got a lot of support, right? And, you know, you post, I mean, I don't think Reddit's as much a Republican thing as a liberal thing, but, you know, they have these different threads, right? And, you know, my wife was saying, well, if she believed in vaccines, then it wouldn't matter if her friend's kids, if the vaccines were working, then her kids weren't going to be at risk because of her friend's kids, right? Like, if they actually worked, then they'd be able to go out and be around unvaccinated people, you know, and not get whatever things you think your kids are going to get. But, you know, everything is like, people believe more in the evil. And it's a fear-based situation. Because everything's based in, you know, terrifying people. And most all this stuff is based in fear in some way or another. And, you know, I mean, this is why people have to be lied to. Because, again, we've been dumbed down, and part of it is like we're regressing. You know, it's idiocracy, which is a systemic issue. But, you know, people have done like human sacrifices and stupid, crazy shit and have been, you know, murderous and just demonic and, I mean, weird ritualistic crap and just making bad decisions for, you know, centuries, thousands of years. And so it's not like the powers that be are working with the best that God has to offer. You know? So, I mean, there's that. So let me put the fluoride thing in here. I found this fluoride video. Let me show you this here.
Fluoride in it, but Rob Damaris has been concerned for years.
See, it says sodium fluoride, dangerous, poison, toxic by ingestion. Targets bones, organs. This is what the video's about, right? Target organs. It says all the stuff. It's warnings right here. And they're not even covering this. They show this and they don't even ask about this.
Years about what's in the supply he gets from China.
It's made in China to boot, right? So it's a neurotoxin that they're adding to the water supply. And it has a big warning on it. It says all the organs that it can affect. And then it comes from China, which is in itself, it's very sketchy, right?
The residue you see here is what won't dissolve when he puts the fluoride powder in the water.
What is that?
We don't know.
You have no idea what's in there.
I don't know what it is. It's not soluble. And it doesn't appear to be sodium fluoride, so we're not quite sure what it is.
Now, sodium fluoride is the active ingredient in rat poisons and various insect poisons. It's a byproduct from aluminum, like it comes aluminum waste product they can't get rid of because it's a toxin. So it's a pain for them to get rid of it. So they decided to put it in the drinking water, right?
Damaris says the residue clogs his machines and makes it difficult to get a consistent mix.
This is the thing they called a Fluoride Pro. There is something called a Fluoride Pro out there that they use to put fluoride into all the drinking waters across the country.
Mix. For almost a year, these fluoride pumps in Amesbury have been off, and the water department says they'll stay off until they can figure out what's in the fluoride. The department.
All right. So what in the fluoride that's causing it to not go into the system, right? And this guy has a little. I'll show you the news report from him.
The Department of Public Health says more than 650,000 customers in 44 communities are getting the product in question, and only Amesbury has temporarily stopped using it. But despite those concerns, we want to be clear. Both state and federal health officials tell Team 5 Investigates Chinese fluoride is safe.
It's safe. It's Chinese.
The New York company which supplies the fluoride in question says it is certified by the National Sanitation Foundation, which assures the quality of the product. And despite 1,000 complaints, the Centers for Disease Control also says it's safe, although testing continues to determine the precise composition of the residue.
They should test it to make sure that what they're putting in is safe for us to drink.
Paul Stewart lives in Newburyport and believes he has a right to know exactly what's in his water.
It's right here. Let's go back to this thing at the beginning here. Here it is at the beginning of the video again. Danger, poison, toxic by ingestion. Targeted organs and these other things, right? Bone, central nervous system, gastrointestinal system, teeth. It's actually bad for your teeth, it's saying here, right? The targeted organs. And so, they all saw this, right? They all saw this, this whatever it is, this warning. This woman's a reporter, and they're showing you this because it's coming from China, but the warning's for sodium fluoride. And let's say it had some medical benefit or some benefit for your teeth, like what they say it is, right? It's only going to be based in, for one, it needs to be applied directly to your teeth. It doesn't go into your teeth in terms of your, like through your body or whatever. So adding it to the water, it depends on how much you drink, how big you are. I mean, when you're doing dosages of any sort of medication, like I said, you just can't be random. And that's why they don't put shit in drinking water. Because some people are going to get too much of a dose, especially if it's freaking toxic. If too much of it's toxic, right? And, they talked about putting like lithium in water, ways to calm the population down, right? Things like that, psychological drugs. But some people are going to get too much of it, and other people aren't going to get enough of it. And also people are going to have side effects to it, and they're not, it's not being prescribed by a doctor. And what if a person is very sensitive to fluoride and has a stronger reaction than other people? That's going to be the case, right? And so the thing is just silly. It's not even just silly, it's like evil. So here is its raticide, right? This is it kills rats. And the active ingredient here is sodium fluoride. Open image, a new tab. And so here it is, right? This is the back of it. It's got a warning here. It has sodium fluoride, the active ingredient, and they use this to kill rats. This was something they used in the old days as a rat poison. They probably got rid of it because it was affecting people. I mean, all these various poisons that were that were based in sodium fluoride. They're using to kill rats and other things here. And then also it was an insecticide, which I showed you before. These various places are putting it up there. Here it is as an insecticide, right? It was used to kill insects and rats. And what do they, when they're studying something for people, what do they test it on? Rats and mice, right? To see if something affects people in a negative way, they test it on mammals, and usually it's lab rats. And so they're testing on these lab rats. And so active ingredient, sodium fluoride, and then, the percentages, right? And so active ingredient, sodium fluoride, against all these things, and lice on poultry. So they're putting it on chickens to kill, chickens that you're going to either eat or you're going to lay eggs. They're putting it on chickens to kill the lice and, all those things. So this is the original report here. that I found because it was at Amesbury, Mass. That was how I ended up finding the video. And this was Rob Damaris, who was the star of that video I just showed you. I don't know what it is. It's not soluble. It doesn't appear to be sodium fluoride, so you're not quite sure what it is. This is from WCVB 5 out of the Boston area. And so it's just so effed up, right? I'm going to put this on a video so I can save it for later if I ever have to use it again. But this is what we're talking about in terms of removing fluoride from the water. Why are they putting a neurotoxin in the water? Like it's just really bad. So I saw this from Fox. Let me just show you the beginning here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is Ingram Angle.
Hey, Laura.
From Washington tonight. As always, thank you for joining us. This
Hey,
is
Laura.
a Fox News alert. Disgraced FBI director.
Disgraced. So I wanted to see how MSNBC would cover this, but they didn't. So it must be bad.
James Comey making
James Comey.
a threatening post against Donald Trump tonight as the president is overseas. Fox's Peter Doocy is live from Abu Dhabi with all the details. My goodness, Peter.
And Laura, the real head scratcher about this very serious topic is that James Comey wants us to believe, and we have this photo here, that he saw a cool, these are his words, cool shell formation on my beach walk. And the cool shell formation, according to the person who used to be in charge of the FBI, shows shells in the shape of 8647.
Okay. That doesn't mean assassinate. I mean, the whole bullshit is that, fuck, right? 86, apparently he's deleted it since then. Saying 8647 could mean impeach him, could be, whatever number of things. It doesn't mean kill him. It's like fucking silly. Of course, this is where Fox is going with this. They're horrible. I mean, they're horrible in their own unique way.
86 is common restaurant lingo, of course, for denying service to somebody. But after about 30 seconds of Googling, you can see that a good chunk of people all around the world also associate 86 with meaning to kill somebody. An old mob.
Oh, So you're going on 30% in Google search. All of a sudden you're relying on Google and what people think around the world.
An old mob saying, basically, you take somebody 8 miles outside of town and then you put them 6 feet in the ground. James Comey.
Is that 86 in?
Again, a guy who has prosecuted mobsters, apparently had no idea that this was a thing. He deleted the original post with the cool shell formation, and he writes, I posted a picture earlier of some shells I saw today on a beach walk, which I assumed were a political message. I didn't realize some folks associate those numbers with violence. It never occurred to me, but I oppose violence of any kind, and I took the post down.
How can you oppose violence of any kind and be the guy in charge of the FBI? Your whole thing, that's your whole thing is violence. I mean, it's a big part of it. It's just so fucking stupid. Like, it's just so fucking stupid, everything. Beto O'Rourke torches Biden over 2024 re-election bid. He failed the country. Former Rep. Beto O'Rourke, remember, he said some really stupid shit. Like, he distinguished himself as a real piece of shit out of the whole debacle of those Democratic candidates there trying to get rid of, who were trying to beat Biden. So is there a clip here? What's this all about? That's Kennedy. Anyway, this is what he said. Just to be clear, should not have run again. He failed the country in the most important job that he had. It's not just you and me, but our kids and grandkids and generations that follow that it might have to pay the price for this. You're making it sound, well, here he is here. Fuck. Watch on X.
Just to be clear, Biden should not have run again. And to be even more clear, he failed this country in the most important job that he had. In fact, the entire rationale for his presidency the first time and the rationale he tried to sell us on for his attempt to run for re-election. Only I can stop Donald Trump. And he failed to do that. And it's not just you and me, but our kids and grandkids and the generations that follow that might have to pay the price for this. We might very well lose, the greatest country that this world has ever known. And it might be in part because of the decision that Biden and those around him made to run for re-election instead of having an open primary where the greatest talent that the Democratic Party can muster could be on that stage to have a competition of ideas and track record and vision and really excite not just Democrats, but the people of this country who did want change. I mean, if anything was clear coming out of 2024, they wanted change. And to literally run the oldest guy who many people accurately, to your point, said, I just don't think he is capable of doing this. And I know that I saw the congresswoman and the congressman on CNN saying he's running circles around us in the briefing rooms behind closed doors. It doesn't add up with what I'm seeing with my own lying eyes. I think that credibility problem is going to persist up until when Democrats say we fucked up and we made a terrible mistake.
Okay, so this piece of shit, I forget what he just did some outrageous stuff, even for Democrats. And I think his claim to fame was he ran for a Senate seat, I believe in New Mexico, possibly Texas. Pretty sure it was New Mexico. In a very Republican area. I think it was probably Texas then, I don't know. Whatever it was, and lost. But he did well enough that it was like, wow, he did pretty good in a red state. And so he was big into gun control and some other things. He was really, just one of just really piece of shit, right? Probably CIA creation. And totally unlikable and failed. He was out early on like Kamala Harris. Nobody wanted him. He didn't go to the primary. He didn't make it to the first primary, right? He didn't make it to New Hampshire and Iowa. And so, he's saying here that Joe Biden is responsible. This senile guy with Parkinson's is responsible for this this debacle that was the Joe Biden fucking presidency and his election bid. But the guy was senile in 2019, or he had Parkinson's then. He was showing signs of cognitive difficulty when this guy ran against him amongst a sea of other candidates that all sucked so bad that Joe Biden was a front runner. And then they rigged the election against Bernie Sanders. This guy didn't say shit. The Democratic Party didn't say shit. And the media didn't say shit. It was clear this guy was, crazy or mentally impaired, and he was declining rapidly. And then when they closed the economy and shut down our society based in the bullshit code of COVID stuff, and the Democrats forced all that shit on us, and Trump bought into it, like Trump got totally worked by that, including the vax and Operation Warp Speed and the rest of it. And Biden was able to win that presidency either by cheating or by at least them rigging the fact that he didn't have to go out and talk to people because they were hiding the guy because he was fucking senile. And then 4 years of senility, and then the last year people started to speak up about it a little bit too late. And who was going to beat Donald Trump? I mean, who are the Democrats going to put out there? It wasn't going to be Kamala. We know that now. RFK Jr. would have had a strong case to be the Democratic nominee, so they would have had another Bernie Sanders nightmare problem where they would have had to rig it against him. They wouldn't even allow him to be on the ballot in certain states with Biden. So they were like, even though they weren't, like, they did a fake primary, it wasn't like they didn't do a real primary. So they would have had an RFK Jr. problem. It's just your whole party's fucked, right? You're trying to make it sound like Trump is a disaster, but your party is the reason why we have Trump. And you've had 8 years that you've been saying, oh, at least we're not Donald Trump. And so this guy, but the big problem here is this is like ageism and age abuse from this guy to blame Biden. Biden is the last person who is responsible for this mess. He has been handled and managed not only by his team, but the media. And I mean, people like fucking the Hammer guy was, even when Biden was leaving office, he's walking around like Biden's like not senile. I mean, this whole thing, they didn't call him out in 2019. when, there was this idea he was the only guy who could beat Trump for God knows what reason. And then the rest of it imploded from there. And all these guys are complicit. Every Democrat, every media person. If you guys want to blame Trump for everything and say that Trump's ruined the country, it's your fucking fault. Like, you guys couldn't beat a guy who was hard capped at 48%. 52% would say they were never Trumper voters. 52% of voters said they'd never vote for Trump. And somehow they fucking did because you guys suck so bad. Like, you had the guy. Like, he had, his support was just very limited. And, everything that Biden did and all the stuff you guys did with COVID and the looting and all the stuff to create the inflation, all the bailouts and all this bullshit, and the Ukrainian bullshit war and all that other stuff. This is what I'm talking about. Like, these guys come out and they just, everything's performative. Everything's fucking fake. It's just so fucking fake. Nothing's organic. Nothing's, like, they just don't speak truth, right? Like, they don't even attempt to speak truth. They're not even like, they're so inauthentic. And that's like people like Joe Rogan, these podcasts, and all the other truther channels. Whatever your position is, people believe what they're fucking saying. The majority of people who are doing this kind of stuff that I'm doing here believe in what they're saying, right? The ones that are fairly popular. And we might be wrong, but at least we're not just like trying to, take polls to give our opinions and shape a narrative around what we think people like to hear, right? Trump, to whatever extent he's a lying piece of shit that tells people what they want to hear, at least he's authentic as a grifter. Like, this is who Trump is. Like, Trump isn't hiding who he is, and yet people just can't see through it, which is fucking phenomenal. People are just that fucking stupid and oblivious. The age of idiocracy is clearly here. This is the year of chaos, but it's also, the age of idiocracy is upon us. And, it's been upon us for many years now. Do you see the degradation of the human system and human species? And we're just, it's going to be worse when we get more and more technology that just dumbs us down as we lose our ability to do everything. And AI is going to be the biggest pacification of the human system, where people are just, not going to think for themselves. They're just going to ask AI, tell them what their opinion is. So, can you tell me this? Can you tell me that? What should I think about this? And then just, comb the available internet and just shit out some kind of, non-human answer in a very polished way, as the AI is able to do. And it sounds really great. It sounds balanced. It sounds like it sounds better than the mainstream media. And these young people just be like, I don't have to read anything. I don't have to know anything. If I have a question, I'll just ask my AI buddy, right? And so, it's just, we're going in the wrong fucking direction. These guys are just all indication of, all of that. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting for the Apocalypse. And the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.